Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Brear, and welcome to episode 60 of the 11FS FinTech Insider Breakfast Show. In this show, we bring you the best and the brightest from around the fintech and banking landscape every single weekday straight into your homes at 8:30 BST, here live on LinkedIn. Today, I am thrilled to be joined by Petr Baron, who is the CEO of TBI Bank. On this morning's show, we're going to be talking to you about the bank's transformation, their phygital model, and how Petr sees banking changing out of the current coronavirus crisis. Current coronavirus crisis, that's very hard to say at 8:30 in the morning. Anyway, good morning, Petr. How are you doing?
Good, man. Very good. Great to see you, David.
Yeah,
great to see you.
Great to have you on. It's been a while since we caught up, but it's always awesome to chat. We'll get into your background and TBI in a second, but for everybody over on LinkedIn jumping on this morning, thank you so much for joining us. As always, we love to get your questions and your comments. So if you've got a question for Petr as we're going through, drop it into the comments and we'll weave it into the conversation as we go. Petr, just for starters, really, tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, my background, I finished business school in UK, CAS Business School, and investment financial risk management, and then I entered what I'd like to call as entrepreneurial banking stage of my life. So most of my career I've been in senior roles in banking companies, which were changing one way or another. Mainly, it was always focused on retail, on B2C models. Majority were components of B2B, but main focus was always on B2C and looking for how an existing business could transform in order to deliver more value to its customers. So that's why for me the kind of the transformation from entrepreneurial banker to a fintech banking was actually very, very close, because entrepreneurial banking was always fueled by, in my view, by love and appetite for technology. And fintech, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's a very nice marketing term, but also a mentality of a different approach. And I think that in fintech banking, this kind of both technology and this entrepreneurial spirit have merged in order to deliver value for customers. And that's what I love and have been doing all my career.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, I think it's a mentality in terms of it. In fact, actually, I'd say one of the things, I mean, me and you have known each other for a while, but I think mentality wise, that's why I think probably me and you get on well. I mean, we've both got the same haircut, glasses and beard vibe go. In fact, we're both born in the same year as well, aren't we? So
it is a very funny coincidence. And even in fact that both of us are sponsored apparently by Starbucks this morning.
Yeah, morning.
Right? It's a very funny one. It is a very funny one indeed. But yeah, I mean, David, we've been lucky enough to know each other for already few years, and I'm very proud to call 11FS as one of the companies who helped us really shape our vision and execute on that vision, because we were one of your first customers when you guys were beginning 11 journey, and when we were beginning the TBI Bank transformation story. So our stories are very well intertwined. That is true indeed.
Very much. Tell us a little bit more about TBI Bank, though. For anybody, you know, there's an international audience for this in terms of people all over the world. Tell us a little bit more about TBI and actually the journey that you guys have been on. Because I mean, I have to say, you've got a very big aspiration of what you want to do, and actually, if I'm honest with you, you're getting there, which is really exciting.
Well, thank you very much for those words. Yeah, it's been hard work, but we are progressing in the right direction. So TBI Bank is what we'd like to call is a lending champion in Southeast Europe. With an aspiration of transforming really into more of an ecosystem platform for on one side for our merchants, because our focus is really helping our merchants sell more business. On the other side, acquiring the customer and moving him from just acquiring the good that he acquired for the merchant through a POS loan or point of purchase finance. Behind that loan, we tend to open to the customer current account. And then the customer goes into a process, what we call continuous scoring, where we use our algorithms in the background in order to constantly be able to inform the customer, if he's interested, what is an extra available limit to him, because once he acquires, let's say, I don't know, a fridge, for example, right? We know that he is actually eligible for, and the fridge costs 600 euro. We know that he is eligible for 1,500 euro, and then that 900 euro is basically reserved for him. And if he wants, he can tap inside his app, download that 900 euro directly into his current account, and go immediately and spend it with his card. So basically, the journey begins with a majority of customers being acquired from our merchant solutions partnerships, which are quite large, and we have over 10,000 partners across our markets. And then the customer gets what we call goes into the customer engagement stage, after which he in an ideal scenario downloads our mobile app, which of course encourage him to, because there are a lot of perks in order to in order to use distant channels, and then he's already a mobile bank customer. So that's more or less the kind of the vision of a journey for our customers. That's one part. In terms of how we have been moving in the journey, I mean, that journey actually we together, put together as a strategy for TBI, together with TBI's team, back in 2016. And really at that time, you know better than me, the bank was really more of a consumer finance business with a banking license, with deposits on the side, operating just across two markets. Well, since then, we have substantially grown across these two markets. And so you understand just the numbers, we issued about 500,000 loans last year, which makes us basically one of the top lenders on a loan count in the region, and that's why we consider ourselves to be lending champions. But also we are no longer operating just in these two markets. We have started raising deposits in Germany. We are partnering with for finance for near prime proposition in markets like Sweden, Denmark. We're also looking at Poland and potentially Lithuania to partner up with the near prime business. So we are already much larger than just the two markets that you have found ourselves back then, because TBI has a European banking license, and we see ourselves as a European player. I mean, the market is 500 million people, and the license allows for that, and of course it requires to build up know-how and expertise inside the organization. We've been doing that over the last few years, but we're on a good journey. I mean, it's fun.
I mean, it's really interesting, like you say. It's look, get a model, make it work in one location. Make sure that you're focusing. I mean, we talked about fintech a second ago, but fintech hasn't been great at doing this. They focus really on community and non-revenue generating areas, but getting that concentric circle between consumer benefit and profitability in the market, get that model working, get the technology working, then actually, as you say, you've got a license that can work pan-European. That's a great recipe for success at that point. And I know, again, when I talked earlier on about the big aspirations, being in a situation where you can do that and put that in place over a relatively short period of time is very good. So as you say, I mean, how have you made this happen? Because obviously you've been, I mean, I know you from the beginning of this, but I think similar work ethics as well between the two of us. So you've been pretty busy, haven't you?
Well, yeah, we've been. I mean, last 4 years have been, really grueling. I mean, undoubtedly. But you do it by building a team of like-minded people who like to get stuff done, who believe in the idea, and enjoy the process, right? I mean, that's the reality. So it's really the kind of you need to have a vision. You need to have the people who are aligned in order to get it done. Of course, with the mistakes, of course you have delays, of course you have problems, you have your setbacks. It's normal, but as long as you get back up and move, to target, and you're supported financially to be able to do that, then you have all the chances to succeed, as long as the market allows for it, of course, right? But this is already the mix of a vision and kind of being, understanding that your vision aligns and the strategy is really executable to market trends. But we've been also, as you rightly said, I mean, we've been lucky is that, lucky, I mean, I won't call it lucky, but it's a lot of hard work, but we're not, we're not running constantly, we're not in a position where we need to constantly be fundraising. We can really focus on building out our business, because we have been profitable, and actually we have been very profitable. COVID has, of course, changed that a little bit, but we're still in green. and we plan to still be at green this year. Maybe not the same as it was originally planned, but because we have always been focused on the bottom line, and it's a combination that we maybe for a few guys who will do, who will fundraise before others, right? But I think the reality of this crisis will show us that many will fall out, right? We are self-sufficient. We are self-sufficient. We are focused on bottom line, but at the same time we are focused on the transformation. So by kind of moving in between these two, which is not easy in itself either, we have been able to sustain our transformation and our passion, actually.
Yeah, I think as you said there, the bit that jumps out for me there, and I think I align to this as well, is the journey. Enjoying that journey, and that always sort of strikes me when we talk is this isn't about sort of winning or losing. This is about enjoying the thing that you're doing each day, and the passion that you've got for the change that you're actually sort of making within the regions that you're operating. So I mean that's a great thing. I mean you guys have become pretty well known for the model as well, the sort of phygital model. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Because I think that there's been a few questions already about that on LinkedIn. I mean, Lucy Heaven says, "Love the term phygital. Is it something that we use and is very relevant in wealth management? In your view, what parts of the client relationship are best to be digitized or created as digital, and what are best to be left to humans?" So, Peter, can you talk a little bit about phygital and then maybe pick up Lucy's comment as well?
Sure. Well, first of all, I think that in reality, we've got all a little bit kind of taken out of just the word digitalization, right? I mean, digitalization is there, for a purpose, right? For a purpose to, at the end of the day, to make either efficiency on the business side or efficiency on the customer interaction, from a point of view of a customer. Right?
Sure.
So it's very important that you time your business per your customers' needs, right? You should not over digitalize customer services when customers are not expecting it or not requiring it or are not used to that model. You need to slowly transition them. On top of that, I think that also in reality, I mean, if we look at let's look, for example, at states, right? I mean, we think that e-commerce is such a huge business, right there, and it is. It's enormous, right? I mean, it's a homeland of Amazon, but at the same time, actually, 90% of retail sales is still done offline. 90%, right? So only 10% is online. So our task is really is to understanding that, of course, digital interactions will increase. And it's very important to actually make sure that your backbone is as digitalized, to be able to be efficient, bring out new products, have efficient processes, risk management, controls, etc., etc. Just to take out the human mistake as a basic, or to make the job easier for people, which by the way brings you to the other point that you've mentioned. I want to come back to that about people being excited and enjoying their work, because I truly believe that's a huge competitive advantage for any professional. But that's why we've understood that actually our model cannot be just either offline, which is where the bank started, or to be just digital. One another should not contradict; they should come together.
Yeah.
And that's why we've understood that actually our path is phygital, and just like we have our offices where customers might want to come and interact with us and continue talking to us and be actually onboarded onto the digital channels, because our customer base, considering in Southeastern Europe, is not as advanced as users in UK, for example, right? Sure. And that has to be taken into account, that every European market has its different stages. All what has happened now with COVID, but it's got accelerated, right? This transformation. Yeah. But it's still, if you have to take into account the starting points. So our starting points in our markets are still quite offline, and therefore we've taken a view that we need to actually combine the two models in order to bring the maximum efficiency. And of course, over time, we do understand that most of interactions with financial services will be purely digital. Sure. That's undoubted. The question is when. And during that time, it's very important to make sure that you don't lose your customer, and the customer gets the best service at the same time as you are getting yourself ready. So that's why we've taken a view of a digital model. And answering Lucy in terms of wealth management, well, I mean, in wealth management, I'm personally even seeing how the model is moving from kind of where I would only deal with my kind of private banking a relationship manager to actually doing so many more things myself through different platforms, right? And then being able to get recommendations from robo advisors, getting crowd wisdoms, getting just such simple UX and UI that I simply don't need somebody in between for part of the services that I was consuming.
Yeah.
But for part I still do, right? And how that will change.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting challenge, isn't it?
They've been also telling me that they are right now doubling down really on technology, because even in their segment, where their customer base is average age is 65, they're understanding that they really need to bring in much more interactive tools, mobile interactive tools for their customers, if they want to keep them.
Yeah, I mean, even if digital is a benefit to consumers, then you've got to move them on that journey. You've got to take them on that journey. I was having that exact conversation with a group of investment bankers yesterday, and I made that point. I mean, digital was introduced not to make the experience better, but most people introduced digital to take paper and people out of a process. So arguably that human interaction has been removed, really. And I think, Lucy, it's a great question on the wealth side, but I'd say in wealth management really hasn't found its way of doing digital and replicating a wealth experience. If you walk into Coutts, you can see the koi carp and the marble and the thickness of the paper and the thickness of the carpet. You can feel that experience. But in a digital context, then it's not been there. And I think this is the point. And Peter, me and you have talked about this many a time, but digitized and digital are not the same thing. And if all the people do is try and take the analog process and digitize it, that's not making the most of all of the opportunities that digital really brings to the.
Absolutely. And let's be realistic. I mean, before the kind of the fintech term was coined, I mean, banks were also spending a lot of money on technology, right? But they were not looking at it, from really a consumer angle. It was really not fun technology. It was not really fun interaction, right? Because nobody thought of terms like, I mean, banks never have had UX and UI people even employed, right? I mean, that was just a different mentality. We build a branch, they will come. Basically, that was we'll put TV advertising on TV and customers will buy. That was the whole mentality. And now banks are having to really become really consumer companies, right? And being of course encouraged by the likes of starting from Apple to to Spotify to everybody, and and big names of course in fintechs, because they understand that actually you really need to take care of a customer. You need to be customer centric, and banks are very bad at that. I mean, banks are bank centric always. Historically, I mean both of these it.
Well, that's the thing. It's been interesting to see, isn't it? Because essentially, I mean, it's been driven by competition. Competition changing in the market, new players coming in, and best practice coming from other industries. But I mean, one thing that I know, and from the beginning of this, the sort of technology side of things has been important. There's an interesting question over on LinkedIn. So Jermaine Bari, sorry if I got your name, pronounced your name wrong there. Talking about Backbone. What is your sort of core banking strategy around this? Because many players have taken different approaches on this, because I mean, ledgers are not really that complex when you really sort of break it down to what it is. But have you guys upgraded, or have you migrated, or how have you sort of dealt with the technology to really be able to facilitate the things that you're doing? When it comes back to your point on loans, actually you can kind of get quite smart about how you do these things to give the experience that you need, can't you?
Well, yep. And I mean, this question alone, Jermaine, and thank you very much. And this is actually a very right question. I mean, for a transformation of business, because it is the success of a transformation is underpinned by the success, of course, of implementation of enabling technologies.
Yeah.
And without going too deep into this, because I can talk only about this for probably 2-3 hours without any problem, and actually I love that conversation. Yeah. The reality is that what we did and what we focused on is really on that enablement layer. We left and did not change the core systems. because I've had the personal experience of changing the core systems in the past, and it can be a successful project, or it can be a project of 5 years. It is not something that we felt, and again, 11FS was actually involved in that a little bit, right? Helping us with our, what we call this go-to architecture. And in that go-to architecture, we really focused on the enablement layer, right? The API layer, the digital journeys layer, the layer where we would be able to really integrate our services, our partners quickly, and focus on the microservice architecture. Again, otherwise, if I go into this conversation now, it will take a very long time. But in very short, enablement, getting key pieces of technology, which really kind of are on the next stage. For example, we use Provenir as the risk engine. Provenir is used by Klarna, by Goldman Sachs to power Apple Card. It is a really great technology, right? And it's a technology which actually helps the team grow by using such technology, right? Sometimes you need team to implement technology, which they say how they want to code it, what. And sometimes you need technology to bring people up, right? So which enables them suddenly to explore many more things, because hundreds of other companies have already gone that path and already thought of all the connectors, thought of already all the journeys, and you are benefiting from that. Yeah. So really, it's always a mix. But what is key whenever you come into any business which you believe you believe needs transformation in order to keep up the pace of competition, you need to focus on that go-to architecture. And you need to dedicate the resources for that, because without getting the architecture right, you will basically slow yourself down in the future.
Well, and it's a really interesting question and a really interesting point. And I mean, like you say, I think we could have a marathon just talking about this subject matter in itself. But I mean, point of principle is technology in banks has always been seen as something static rather than something moving. And actually, I think the work that you guys did at the beginning to establish a constantly evolving set of capabilities, as you say, with people who have got the kind of heritage to kind of make those things happen, that makes all of the difference, really, especially when you're looking at partnerships and integration being a key thing in that. And speaking of which, actually, I mean, you guys have recently became the first financial institution actually to in Southeast Europe, I believe, to partner with Bank of Lithuania. So you were looking there at, particularly from a SEPA instant payments perspective. I mean, can you talk about that partnership a little bit, because that gives you very interesting capability to take to the market as well?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, listen, we really just before, in terms of our mentality, I mean, our approach is very simple, right? I mean, if there is something that we can do well, right, with focus and time, we'll do it. If something that we are not best at, it's better to partner with someone, again, because our target is not to have everything. Our target is to make sure that our customer is provided with the tools that he's necessary, so that are necessary for him, for his daily life. And the SEPA project came out actually of our partnership also with For Finance, where For Finance maybe just a quick word, is the largest online lending business in Europe. Where For Finance basically wanted us from us, to build a payment hub where we would be able, from one center, to distribute all the loans across EU markets. That requires SEPA Instant, because SEPA Instant is something that happens basically the payment is immediate, which is great for the lending business, right? Once a customer is approved online, he wants to have the money immediately on his bank account, right? And SEPA Instant allows us to basically make sure that we deliver the money from the moment that the customer is approved, anywhere between seconds to maybe 15 minutes, right? Anyway, in EU markets.
Yeah.
And Bank of Lithuania was building their technology in order to allow banks, and we were the first bank. Actually, we were not the first bank outside East Europe. I think we were the first bank in general, because before they had only payment institutions which were onboarding onto them, but we were, I think, the first bank to onboard actually onto the payments rails. And from doing this project specifically as a B2B business here, we also got, of course, all the benefits for our retail customers. So our customers can benefit from this SEPA instant transfers across Europe, which is awesome.
Yeah, no, it is. And like you say, again, from a lending perspective, you're thinking of it back from where the consumer problem is, right? If somebody wants a loan, they want the money as quickly as possible for a purpose, don't they? And actually getting that money into their hand, particularly in this period, right, with everything that's happening with COVID, then the instant access to funds is so critical. So again, it's technology that solves a real consumer problem, which for us is always the best way of kind of going about these things. But
there's no other way. There is no. I mean, unless you focus on the consumer need, right, on the customer's problem, right. Well, then you're a useless part of a chain, right? Somebody will take you out, right? I mean, you are the weakest part of a chain. Yeah. You have to be constantly thinking, okay, where do I deliver true value to the customer? If you don't, you have a problem.
Agree. I mean, how do you think more broadly? I mean, obviously, everything that's happening with COVID and all of the changes that have kind of happened with that. I mean, how have you guys coped with remote working? Has that been a big change for you? Or, I mean, I know you travel, I think, more than I do, but you know, there's lots of kind of movement there. But how has this period been for you guys?
Well, I mean, I have to say we've transitioned quite well. I mean, we've been open every single working day because we have offices, and our customers expected us to stand by them, both on a savings side, but also on the lending side. We never stopped lending during the whole process. Yeah, we tightened some scorecards, of course. You know, we're looking, you know, much more at you know, daily data. But overall, we continued operating. So for us, it was a bit of a change for me because I travel all the time. But for majority of people, it worked out really well. I mean, we moved people out from offices very quickly and very efficiently. We of course moved on all the technology, which we are already preparing because we were already analyzing, you know, how we could work partly from home. But listen, I mean, the bank today is like 50 nationalities, which many of them are, you know, spread across different markets, and we have always been working across multiple markets. So for us, it's not really a problem to operate distantly. Of course, it's as we discussed with you earlier, it's more of a problem for you know, kind of personal interactions and those, you know, those kind of easy coffee breaks, you know, whatever, right? We miss that, but otherwise we've been doing really well, I think, on this lockdown.
And how have you? How about yourself personally? I mean, staying in one place for, I mean, it's freaking me out just staying in the same place for such a long period of time. But how about you? How's working from home?
Well, listen, for me, I kind of put myself into a system. I go in the morning for. Then, you know, I work throughout the day, and the system works for me. But of course, I miss traveling. Of course, I miss seeing people, you know, in real life, and that will come back. We just need to get through this period right now, and then that's it. Keep our sanity and our businesses straight, and that's it.
Very, very true. All right, Peter. Well, thank you so much. It's great to see the success that you guys are having and everything that's going through it. So thank you so much for making the time to come and talk to us today. I mean, where can people find out a little bit more about you and all the great work that you're doing at TBI?
Well, I think LinkedIn probably. LinkedIn is where we try to post. We have a very fun quarterly updates that we share. But we also share, you know, quite actively all the news about what is happening about the bank. Of course, you can look on our websites and so on and so on. But I think LinkedIn probably would be the best place both for the bank and for me. Fantastic. We find it very, very useful, actually, very, very useful.
Very good. Well, guys, connect with Peter over on LinkedIn. It's all we have for you today, I'm afraid, though. I know you guys have got a busy day ahead of you to go and get on with bits and bobs. So tomorrow, I'm going to be joined by Lara Gilman, who is the co-lead at iWalkerPay. Should be a really interesting conversation as well. Some really interesting things going on. Again, Peter, thank you so much for making the time. Everybody, we will see you same time, same place tomorrow. Stay safe, everybody. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.
Thank you, guys.